Ling Dongxing greeted Cheng Wen-kun with a broad smile, his clasped hands raised in respect. "Brother Cheng, come, come, come. You're the guest of honor today. I was worried you wouldn't be coming." Cheng Wen-kun tugged at Ling Dongxing's arm, the epitome of cordiality and enthusiasm. "This is Brother Cheng's banquet. How could I not give face to you?" Ling Dongxing laughed loudly. The two exchanged pleasantries, appearing as though they were longtime companions. To an onlooker, they would seem like old friends, but to those who knew better, they harbored a deep mutual hatred, each silently wishing for the other's demise. Ling Han, standing nearby, rolled his eyes. The false politeness of such interactions repulsed him. In his previous life as an alchemy genius, there were only those who sought to flatter him, and there was no need for him to lower himself to such antics. Cheng Wen-kun didn't even spare Ling Han a glance, as though unaware that the young man was the one who had injured his sons and the cause of the economic war between their clans. "Haner, don't go too far," Ling Dongxing warned, his voice low. "Yes, father," Ling Han replied, following him closely, Lu Yutong trailing behind. Cheng Wen-kun guided them swiftly to the main hall, where nearly 100 banquet tables had been arranged. Many guests were already seated, each table marked with a name to avoid confusion. The host had thoughtfully prepared the seating arrangement, considering that some guests might bring female companions. Therefore, while each table could seat 10, only 5 names were written per table. Ling Han and Lu Yutong found their assigned seats and settled in. "Young Master Han!" At their table were 3 other young men, all students of Grey Cloud Academy. They greeted Ling Han with respect, their faces filled with admiration. Not long ago, they had witnessed Ling Han's invincible prowess as he defeated Cheng Xiang and his brother. They had also heard that he had reached the 7th layer of the body refining tier, so naturally, they did not dare show any disrespect. A 16-year-old at the 7th layer of body refining tier, such an individual was hailed as a genius in Grey Cloud Town. Ling Han smiled politely, acknowledging their respect. There was no need to return their courtesy with coldness when they treated him with such deference. After a while, Ling Muyun joined the table. Though he appeared to ignore Ling Han completely, his face was stiff, betraying his discomfort. Soon after, Cheng Xiang walked over and took a seat at the same table. "Ling Han, you're not looking too bad." Cheng Xiang sneered, his voice laced with mockery. Ling Han gave him a cursory glance and replied, "Hey, the injuries on your face seem to have healed quite quickly." Cheng Xiang's face turned red with anger. He could still remember the humiliating defeat he had suffered at Ling Han's hands, forced to beg for mercy in front of so many people. The memory haunted him, and he yearned for a way to erase that stain from his honor. But tonight, he was determined to regain his pride. "You can only have this short while to be pleased with yourself," Cheng Xiang said coldly, his smile turning sinister. "Soon, you will be kneeling before me, begging for my forgiveness. Have you not taken your medicine? Or have you overdosed?" Ling Han teased with a smirk. Cheng Xiang fell silent, his lips curling into a mysterious smile. As the banquet hall filled with guests, the mood shifted. At first, people were mingling, chatting with acquaintances and forming new connections. But as more guests arrived, most took their seats in preparation for the banquet to begin. The animosity between the Ling clan and Cheng clan was well known. They were the 2 dominant factions in Grey Cloud Town. If Cheng clan were to yield to Ling Han now, the Ling clan would undoubtedly become the most powerful force in the town. Many of the attendees had gathered to witness this potential turning point in history. Soon, Cheng Wen-kun stood up, waving his hands to signal he had something to announce. The once boisterous chatter faded, and the hall fell silent. Was he about to publicly admit defeat to the Ling clan? "The reason I've invited all of you here tonight is to introduce someone," Cheng Wen-kun began. This revelation left the guests confused. Wasn't the Cheng clan supposed to be submitting to the Ling clan? How had this become a reception banquet for someone? If they had known, many would have thought twice about attending. All eyes turned to Ling Dongxing. Now that Cheng Wen-kun had taken such a step, everyone was eager to see how he would respond. However, to the disappointment of many, Ling Dongxing maintained his serene smile, as though he cared little about the unfolding situation. Cheng Wen-kun continued, This person is my nephew, Cheng Xiaoyuan, who left the clan at 13 to become the disciple of one of the elders of the Stone Wolf sect. Now, after gaining some skill, he has returned to visit the family. Stone Wolf sect. A wave of shock rippled through the guests. The Stone Wolf sect was a powerful force in the region, commanding authority over dozens of towns, including Grey Cloud Town. They were the ultimate overlords of the area. Cheng Wen-kun, revealing this card, clearly indicated that he had no intention of conceding to the Ling clan. Instead, he planned to use the might of the Stone Wolf sect to suppress them. However, despite Cheng Xiaoyuan's ties to the sect, he was still just a disciple of one of its elders. His personal power might not be enough to change the balance. Cheng Wen-kun continued with a proud smile. Xiaoyuan has also invited a very esteemed guest tonight. Let us welcome Elder Chen Feng Li. Elder! A true elder of the Stone Wolf sect, a figure of immense power in the gushing spring tier. The guests were awestruck, and Cheng Wen-kun led the applause, prompting everyone else to follow suit. An old man with a medium build, dressed in vermilion, stepped into the hall. His black hair and rosy complexion gave him a regal appearance. Behind him was a young man who seemed to revere the elder, his hands clasped respectfully. It was clear that this was Chen Feng Li, the elder, and the young man beside him was Cheng Xiaoyuan. Chen Feng Li strode towards the host's table with arrogance, taking his seat without acknowledging anyone around him. His posture radiated superiority. No one dared to object to his demeanor. As a gushing spring tier warrior, he could easily dominate anyone in the 9th layer of the element gathering tier. He remained silent, his eyes scanning the room as though he was above everyone else. Only Cheng Xiaoyuan's persistent pleas had convinced him to attend this gathering. Cheng Wen-kun cast a self-satisfied look at Ling Dongxing, as though to say, "I've invited an elder from the Stone Wolf sect, and you still dare to oppose me?" Cheng Xiaoyuan made his way to sit beside Cheng Xiang. The young man appeared to have recently entered the element gathering tier, still in the 1st layer. "Young brother Xiang, I heard you had a spar a few days ago and lost." Cheng Xiaoyuan asked, his tone laced with amusement. "I was less skilled than my opponent, I." Cheng Xiang sighed dramatically. "Oh?" Cheng Xiaoyuan raised an eyebrow. "Who did you lose to?" "I'd like to see this person for myself." "Hey, he's seemingly far away, but actually close at hand." Cheng Xiang's gaze turned toward Ling Han. "So you lost to this young genius?" Cheng Xiaoyuan smiled coldly, his challenge clear. "Do you dare to spar with me?" This pair of cousins continued their lively conversation, their words laced with intent. It was clear to all present that their jests were not mere banter, but a veiled challenge, one aimed squarely at Ling Han. Cheng Xiang's lips curled into a subtle smile as he spoke with an air of haughty superiority. "I almost forgot to mention, my cousin here broke through to the element gathering tier just last year. Now he stands on the verge of reaching the peak of the 1st layer. Such a prodigious talent, truly exceptional." Cheng Xiaoyuan, with an expression of false modesty, chimed in. "I merely advanced to the element gathering tier at the tender age of 20. Surely I cannot be called an extraordinary genius. I am but a step ahead of others." The crowd, upon hearing these words, were struck dumb with astonishment. The element gathering tier. Although Cheng Xiang had reached the 9th layer of the body refining tier at only 19, advancing so swiftly in such a short time was a feat unimaginable to most. It was an achievement that demanded years, perhaps even a lifetime of hard work. Yet, Cheng Xiaoyuan had already breached the element gathering tier at 20. His modesty was a thin veil over what was undoubtedly the mark of a true genius. Certainly, the term exceptional genius might have been exaggerated in this context, for Grey Cloud Town was a small, insignificant place. In such a town, anyone who displayed even the slightest remarkable talent was often heralded as a genius. Martial arts doctrine held that the gap between different tiers was nearly impossible to overcome in battle. The disparity in power was so vast that no amount of skill or technique could bridge it. All eyes turned toward Ling Han, awaiting his next move. What would he do in the face of this challenge? Should he accept, defeat was certain. Cheng Xiaoyuan was not only stronger, but with an elder from the Stone Wolf sect present, had the authority to kill without consequence. But should he refuse, His hard-earned reputation would be tarnished beyond repair. A true dilemma, a predicament where either decision would lead to ruin. However, when weighing the consequences, it became evident that declining the challenge was the wisest course. After all, accepting it might cost him his life. They sought to humiliate him? Ling Han's gaze flickered between Cheng Shang and Cheng Xiao Yuan, a slow smile curling on his lips. This scheme was masterfully crafted, but little did the Cheng clan know, he had already ascended to the element-gathering tier. His five-element origin nuclei granted him a power they could not even fathom. "Very well, let us spar," he declared, his voice calm and collected. "What?" Ling Han had agreed. The onlookers were stunned, and even Cheng Shang and Cheng Xiao Yuan exchanged incredulous glances. But soon their expressions morphed into cold smiles. Since the fool sought his own demise, they would gladly oblige. Ling Dongxing could not suppress his urge to intervene and assist his son, but the true purpose of this spectacle was to eliminate both Ling Dongxing and Ling Han. That was the script they had written for tonight. Even Ling Muyun's heart swelled with a hidden joy at the prospect of Ling Han's death. In martial clans, such sparring matches were common at banquets. A simple clearing of space outside the main hall would suffice for the impromptu arena. With Cheng Xiang's public announcement, word spread quickly across the gathering. The entire banquet hall buzzed with rumors of Ling Han's impending battle with Cheng Xiao Yuan, the supposed prodigy of the Cheng clan. This battle was one with an outcome that seemed entirely predictable. How could Ling Han possibly stand a chance against the prodigious Cheng Xiao Yuan? The two fighters stepped into the courtyard. A modest area, no more than 10 paces across, had been cleared for their contest. Though small, it was ample room for their bout. "Truly a fool," Cheng Xiao Yuan sneered, his voice dripping with venom as he approached. "Prepare to meet your end," Ling Han snorted dismissively. "You dream of my death. Then die," Cheng Xiao Yuan roared, launching his fist with full force toward Ling Han. He did not feel the need to employ any martial technique. He was certain that his strength, at the peak of the first layer of element-gathering tier, was more than sufficient to crush his opponent. In martial arts, it was often said that overwhelming strength could render even the most skilled techniques unnecessary. The strength gap between them was so great that Cheng Xiao Yuan believed his brute power alone would decide the outcome. Ling Han, however, was unfazed. With a calm expression, he met Cheng Xiao Yuan's fist with his own. The two fists collided with a thunderous crash. A shockwave of energy spread outward, knocking several onlookers off their feet. Bang, bang, bang. The sound reverberated across the courtyard as a few nearby spectators crumpled to the ground in stunned confusion. Yet both Ling Han and Cheng Xiao Yuan stood resolutely in their places, their fists locked in a struggle of strength. Impossible! The scene before them left the onlookers utterly speechless. How could this be? How was it possible that Ling Han could match Cheng Xiao Yuan's power blow for blow? Cheng Xiao Yuan's haughty expression faded into a deep scowl as he muttered, "Element gathering tier?" Ling Han smiled faintly. "You are not the only one capable of breaking through." Although the crowd had already speculated as much, Ling Han's confirmation still sent waves of shock rippling through the assembly. Cheng Xiao Yuan had earned widespread praise for breaking through to the element-gathering tier at 20 years old, yet Ling Han was only 16. 16, and already in the element-gathering tier? It was an extraordinary feat beyond comprehension. Everyone turned to gaze at Ling Han, their eyes filled with disbelief. This was the same boy who had been scorned as trash only a month ago. How had he achieved such a monumental transformation in such a short span of time? "Brother Ling, you truly have a remarkable son." Cheng Wen-kun spoke with an awestruck tone, though his eyes were filled with murderous intent. A 16-year-old in the element-gathering tier, such a talent was almost unheard of. Ling Han's potential far surpassed that of Ling Dongxing when he was at the same age. In the past, Cheng Wen-kun had always compared himself to Ling Dongxing, but no matter how hard he worked, the gap between them only grew wider. Now, with Ling Dongxing's stagnation in the 9th layer of element-gathering tier, Cheng Wen-kun had hoped to catch up, only to be outpaced by Ling Han's extraordinary rise. This could not be allowed. If Ling Han was allowed to live, he could easily surpass the Cheng clan in just a few short years. The Ling clan would become a power far beyond their reach. Ling Dongxing, though his son's sudden rise had once troubled him, now found himself swelling with pride. Just so. Still can't compare to your Xiaoyuan who broke through a year ago. What a joke. A 20-year-old who broke through? That was nothing compared to a 16-year-old. In the courtyard, Cheng Xiaoyuan took a long, steadying breath, his shock palpable. Just a month ago, Ling Han was only in the 7th layer of body-refining tier. Yet now he had ascended to element-gathering tier with such speed. This progress was nothing short of terrifying. Did this brat possess some kind of treasure that accelerated his cultivation? The thought sparked a sudden clarity in Cheng Xiaoyuan's eyes. Yes, it must be. This trash must have come into possession of some great fortune. Well, it is mine now, Cheng Xiaoyuan thought, his resolve hardening. He relaxed his fists and then spread his palms wide. The earth-shaking palm, a yellow-grade high-level martial technique, was his chosen technique. A gift from a historical site, it had not only granted him a powerful technique, but also earned him a reward from the Stone Wolf sect, an origin-gathering pill that had aided him in his breakthrough to element-gathering tier. He was confident. With such a formidable martial arts technique, he would surely dominate the battle. The Ling and Cheng clans were no match for his power, and this battle would prove it.